In the final game of the World Championship, the final classical game that is, Ding started with the white pieces and he played d4. Nepo naturally replied knight f6 and Ding played c4. So what opening will we see today? e6, knight c3, bishop b4. We have the Nimso Indian. And now e3 by Ding, castles, bishop d2, d5, and a3. Here, black can take, but Nepo decides to go back to e7. And now knight f3, c5, striking at the center, a pawn break. Takes, queen c2, takes, and here after knight d7 came rook d1, keeping an eye on the queen, a small threat. Bishop e7, and here came the first important moment of the game. Ding Liren showed his intentions by playing knight g5. He showed that he is willing to take some risk to get some play in the position. Now the position is better for black because this is not really a problem. He just plays h6 and Ding's idea is h4, the fishing pole trap. He tried this in one of the games earlier and it was an interesting game. Here Nepo doesn't take because of course if you take, you would be in trouble. The knight can't move to h7, there's mate. And if the knight moves anywhere else, there's immediate mate on h7 because a rook opens up. So Nepo just ignores it, the free piece, queen c7, and now bishop e2. The problem for Ding is he cannot maintain this here forever. I mean, once the threat of queen e7 is gone, he'll have to move the knight. So here Nepo played rook d8 and now Ding played rook c1. Nepo played knight f8. Now he has to save the knight because h7 is guarded by the f8 knight. So good play by Nepo. Knight e4. Here Nepo played knight takes knight. There's an interesting move here for white. Knight to d5. What is the idea with knight d5? So after knight d5, if queen takes queen, we take there first. And then after king moves, we just take here. So did white win material? No, black will play rook takes, knight takes, king takes. The problem for white is the knight's almost trapped. Just bishop d7 and the knight will have to find a way to come back. So black is better here. You'll have to play something like rook c1. So the tactic looks nice, but it doesn't lead anywhere for white. It's still better for black. So that's why he didn't play that. He played knight takes back. After Nepo's knight e4, Ding just takes back, and now we have an endgame. Queen takes, rook takes, and bishop d7. Who is better in this endgame? White's pieces look a little more active, and the king is already close to the center, so the rook can come in easily. Bishop takes, pawn takes, and bishop c6. But black's bishop is better. Knight c5 and takes on g2. So Ding allows the pawn to get taken. He had other alternatives. He had bishop f3 as well, but he prefers to go active. Bishop takes rook g1. And after bishop back, pawn e4. And when bishop goes back, b5. The bishop gets kicked all the way back, and now the b7 pawn hangs. So basically, material is restored, material balance. Rook moves to d4, attacking e4. Black is still slightly better. After rook went back, the knight's kind of almost out of squares. It goes back to c5, but then comes the pin. So how do you get out of this? Ding just plays rook c3. Nepo plays rook c8, doubling on the pin. He plays d4, and now knight d7, tripling on the pin. Of course, you can't take because then you lose an exchange. So here, Ding decided to go rook g3, going for the counterplay. But this position is already good for black here, slightly better for black. Rook g7, king moves, bishop d3, and now rook d1, attacking the bishop, king e2, rook c3, attacking the bishop. Check, king moves, and white defends the bishop. Here, Nepo had a slightly interesting option, rook b3. The idea is rook takes, and if rook takes, he just plays bishop takes back, winning material. But the problem with that is, now white will just play normal move like rook h8. And if you do your tactic, then white will take the bishop first and only then take back. And the endgame it's a pawn endgame with equal material and both kings are active enough. It will be a draw. Which is why Nepo didn't go for that. He played e5, keeping the tension. Rook h8 attacking the pawn and now rook d6 defending it. Pawn b6 takes and rook takes bishop. So a nice tactic here. Basically simplifying material. After king takes, there comes a discovered attack. He exchanges off the pieces of the board and now there's just a rook left to both sides. Black has an extra pawn. Nepo has an extra pawn. Even though that pawn is not enough to win. because white king is active and the rook is also active. Rook goes to f3, attacking the weak pawn. Rook comes back. So Ding's idea here is he won't let the black king come closer, because as soon as the black king comes closer, he'll attack the weak f6, f7 pawn. So pawn a5, rook check, king moves, rook check, and the rook goes behind the pawn. Very important to go behind the pawn when you're defending or try to promote. Rook comes down, king f3. The white king stays near the vicinity of his pawns, and now rook just waits. Both sides wait. All Ding has to do is keep an eye on the f6 pawn, not let the king come closer. And if black tries to get closer, giving up the pawn, white king should be nearby. King moves, and we have some waiting moves. They don't agree to a draw. Nepo is the one pushing black, but he doesn't have much. And finally, Nepo decides to go king d7, giving up the pawn. Now rook b2, rook comes back, rook check, king moves, and now the king is able to come closer. But now Ding should be able to just exchange of stuff. He plays f4, a very nice move. The idea is that after Nepo takes, Ding gets his own pass pawn. Black's extra f pawn, the king can manage. But the white pawn will be a headache to the black king. So Ding is creating play. That was the only way to maintain equality, by playing f4. If he hadn't played f4, he would be lost, because the black king would just come to b7 and then come down. So after f4 takes, pawn e5, the white pawn runs forward, king b7, rook comes back. And now king comes to c6, the black king is out of jail, but not quite, because he has to stay around the e pawn, past white e pawn. Rook check, king moves, rook a7, king b6, and now rook a8. The white rook stays behind the pawn, and the black king is not sure where to go. Here Nepo played king c5. Nepo tries to come in with his king, but then Ding says, wait, after rook a6, he's trying to push his pawn forward. Now the king goes to b5, Ding goes back, just teasing Nepo's king. The king doesn't go to b7, he stays active with c6. And now we have a repetition. Rook a6 position has happened one time before. King goes to d7. Nepo tries a different route. He goes to the other side. After king f2, king goes to e7. King g2, Ding just waits. Nepo comes to e3, keeping an eye on the pawn of the rook as well. But the black king is now completely cut off by the rook. Now Nepo will have to do this all over again, getting to the b7 square. Rook g3. And now king f1, rook c3. Nepo is just torturing Ding a little bit, but Ding knows he is fine here. King f2, unless something really surprising happens, Ding should be able to hold it. Rook e3, king g2. And are we headed to a repetition? This is already more than 7 hours into the game, and 80 moves have been completed so far. This might be the longest final game of the World Championship ever. Nepo plays king d7. He's heading to b7 again. King f2, king c7, pawn e6, and now king d8. Here Ding plays rook a7, cutting down the black king to the last rank. And after king e8, king g2. Ding just waits. Nepo takes the pawn finally, and it's like a draw. Rook takes pawn, rook check, king moves. The black pawn is managed by the white king and the rook, so there's no problems for Ding still. Rook g4 and rook a5. Rook takes 2 pawns up for black, but the white king just comes and picks up the one pawn on f4. And once that pawn is gone, the other pawn will get taken. It's a pawn in game, which is drawish, which is completely drawn. And that is how the final game of the World Championship ended in a draw. And in 90 moves after more than 7 hours of play. So it's 7-7, a tie, and we're going to have rapid tie breaks to decide the 2023 FIDE World Chess Champion.